All right, all right. We are back in beautiful Belmont, New Jersey at the Grit Won't Quit podcast studio powered by Wingman. We have a very special guest on. We have a New Yorker on today. We have Peter from Blacklion. How are you today?
So good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on today. Thanks for taking a trip on a Friday in the summer to Belmont, New Jersey. That's dedication. That's grit in and of itself.
Thank you. It was a beautiful journey here.
How was the traffic?
It was fine. I just took the trains. Everyone was so nice.
Oh, all right, good. Train is easy. Perfect. You came right into Belmont, so this was super easy.
Super easy.
Perfect. I was thinking you were driving, and I just felt bad for you going down the Garden State Parkway on a Friday morning in the summer. But thank you for coming on. Thanks for traveling a little bit for of a distance to see us today. So tell people what it is you do and why you do it.
Of course. So I run Blacklion Consulting. We do grant programs for social services, conservation, different nonprofits and NGOs in the US and around the world. And then we also do the small business innovation research grants for startups in the US, but they can also be in the UK or Canada. And across programs, we've raised over $21.5 million, and that's for social services and different kinds of innovation.
That's really awesome. That's really cool. So I have a couple questions for you. Let's start with the conservation. So how did you get kind of involved in this?
Yes. So growing up, I was obsessed with animals. I literally would...
Are you still?
Of course. Who isn't?
There you go. Perfect.
I would come home from school and watch Animal Planet for
hours on end.
Hours, fall asleep watching an episode of something, wake up watching a different special on a different animal. It was just, I was obsessed. And then...
Do you have a favorite animal?
Today it's a chimpanzee.
All right. And over the years it's changed?
It depends on the day.
All right. It depends on the day, not even on the year or the month. All right, cool. So you've really been into animals, and that's what got you going.
Yes. So I was doing conservation work. I did work study in high school, so I was only there for half the day, and I was just running around the other half of the day. And I graduated early from high school to spend 7 months saving cheetahs in Africa, and that was my foot into the door of USAID, developing relationships with donors, identifying which foundations to go after, which is what I do now in my current work.
Awesome. So you finished high school. Now, did you go to high school in Queens too?
I went to high school in California.
Oh, what got you out to Queens?
I wanted to be near a childhood friend, so I moved to New York.
Awesome. So you grew up in California. I usually start with that. So you grew up in California. What part of California?
I grew up in Santa Monica, Santa Barbara.
Okay, and then you went to Africa for 7 months. Come back from Africa. Then did you go right to the Queens, or did you go at that point go back to California?
I got a degree in Southern California in marketing.
Awesome. So you're well studied and everything.
Thank you.
Finished high school 7 months early. Gee, I love it. So now you're working in this world. So let us know about some of the nonprofits that you've helped, kind of secure funding, and what are they using the money for?
Yeah. So right now we have two nonprofits that we work with on a smaller project basis, and they do fight illegal wildlife trade. And so I'm still very passionate about that, and I get to talk to these people and be on the phone with them if they're in the UK, if they're in Liberia, Africa, if they're in Indonesia. It's just I'm kind of like a iPhone battery that's just always on sometimes, because I'll literally get phone calls
all day, night,
in the middle of the night, super early. It's just always.
And because you're here, it doesn't
Yes.
matter. They're in different time zones, so it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock somewhere else, and you're sleeping maybe.
It's always somebody else's time zone. And then we also, with the small business innovation research side, we are helping startups identify renewable energy, different alternative waste management systems, because right now it's I feel like the world is honestly in a bit of an arms race in terms of robotics, who can build the fastest, strongest, most technical robots that can compete on the international marketplaces. And then, honestly, there's so much of a greater need now for energy use because of all these data centers that are being built.
Yeah, how does your, with all these data centers and AI being built, that's the opposite of what you're trying to do with your renewable energy?
So I think it's going to be an ongoing process of figuring out how can we make energy more renewable, more cost effective, so that we can sustainably keep these centers running. I don't know what the answer is, but there's a lot of really great startups in this space that we are working with and talking to.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this space there's a lot going on every day, and you got the biggest of the big guys trying to be in this game, and then you have the small guys, and you know, who's looking to do it because they want to do it for the right reasons, who's looking to do it to get the buyout and, you know, get private equity money in and call it a day, who's doing it, you know, for whatever reason they might have.
Of course. And I think we did a lot of events for the first week of June in New York for New York Tech Week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on my LinkedIn, we had robots boxing each other, but those robots had come from Hong Kong. And so when I think about, my first big boy job out of college, I was a manager for Amazon, and we had robots in the center that were sorting, they were moving pallets around, they were stacking certain containers,
Mm-hmm.
and working alongside people, and they were making the team more efficient. But also, when you look at the technology that is coming from particularly Asia, how is the U.S. going to compete? And one way is through the Small Business Innovation Research Fund.
So expand on your thoughts on what's going on in Asia.
In Asia with the robots?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I took some notes. We do have there's a few things going on right now. I think here in the U.S. we have a very there is some internalized fear around AI and robots of like, could this be an antichrist? Could this technology turn on us? And that is something we need to protect ourselves from and be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think the culture in Asia has a much more secular view of this technology. And so the perception when I talk to people who work in venture capital is that the robots and the technology that is coming out of Asia is a bit more advanced in some ways and more sophisticated because there's just less fear of adopting.
So what happens though if you don't need a workforce?
Or
you need a smaller workforce?
I think you have to think about, in economics, we learned this in college, there's your required physical needs like groceries, those kind of plateau, but then the consumer's desires of what do they want, what kind of services do they want, those just never stop expanding. And so I think we are in a place where the use of this technology, it can expand what we can do.
So I like that you have notes that you're prepared. That's a good thing. But let's just dive into that though.
Okay.
When you think about the fear, I think that there is a fear.
Yes.
I think there's I see it every day. I think, and I'm probably set right in the middle. Mm-hmm. I'm all about people, and if you ask Andrew and the guys that work for me, I care about people a lot. I care about our customers a lot. I really do.
Yes.
I want them to win. And a guy called me the other day and goes, I'm a little slow. I said, come on down, let's do a video, no charge, and he reached out to me 2 days later, goes, Tom, you got me some customers already. So I am all about people and bettering businesses. But on the reverse side of that is when a robot or an AI bot or somebody is doing the job of those people, what are those people how are they going to support living in Queens, New York?
That's a very real, valid question.
Like you have a population that is most people don't go to work because they have this burning desire and they love to work. I personally love to do my job, so I'm excluded. But most people, by Friday at 4:59, they're like they can't 5 o'clock. That dot can't hit 5 o'clock fast enough. They're running out the door. So, but they don't work. They work to live, not live to work. So, what do you do if you said, I can be more efficient by 25%. I'm going to make a 25% cut across the board. Now, again, a 25% cut at my company of 25 is 5. If we take 5 people out of Wingman, mm-hmm. because we're more efficient with a robot or AI or whatever the case may be, mm-hmm. I take 5 people off my payroll. Now I'm happy, right? Mm-hmm. I'm from a financial aspect, I'm happy. from a human aspect, I'm miserable. But let's just look at the financial aspect. So I
Yeah.
take 5 off. My business is better. I'm loving life. Like I put X amount more right in my pocket. It's a good number. I live bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. What do those 5 people do?
These are very.
And those 5 on my 25 is a
Yeah.
very small number.
Yeah.
Do that on 25,000, 250,000. Take that same 25%.
Nationwide.
Nationwide, what do you do?
These are a lot of questions to unpack. I think there is a few things going on right now in 2026. I think we have to have empathy for the fact that young people are in a much more competitive,
They're in a shitty situation. Pardon my language.
polarizing workforce and economy than what their parents and grandparents grew up in.
Mhm.
I think that we need to have empathy for young people. We need to have, honestly, safety nets that can help them as they build and establish their own careers. I think part of it, especially my advice to young people, would just be to never ever ever stop learning.
Mhm.
You have to be willing to just continuously be upskilling, be continuously learning and trying new things and putting yourself out there, because I think that it's much more competitive than the prosperity that prior generations did.
Yeah, my
experience.
concern is I think the VCs, they don't really care about people. They care about a financial statement. They care about what's called a P&L, right? They care about that profit and loss statement, where they're not really worried about the person, about the people. It's survival of the fittest, and that's great. I have no disrespect for those guys and gals, but I think that's what they care about. I think when you look at the Main Street, it's a different world. People, again, if you told me I had to lay off 5 today, I don't know who the 5 would be. I could probably pick 1 or 2 of my lowest performers, but I don't have 5 to give away. Like you give me a robot, you give me AI, and I can get the work done. Great. I don't know that I could pick 5. Like it would just be a hard thing, and I think my concern with that is, and again, you're not here to hear my concerns, but
No, it's great.
There's a people aspect, and when are you gonna have homelessness because we're more efficient with robots? I mean, I think it's great that we're more efficient with robots, and I love that because the more efficient. But we got to figure out as a society, as a country, as a group, and again, forgetting what Asia is doing, because they have. I agree with you that it's a very different world there.
Mm-hmm.
But my concern is, what do you do with some of these people? How do you train some of these 21-year-olds? How do you tell somebody's parents, that 18-year-old that wants to go to an XYZ school, and it's going to be $60,000 a year? How are they ever going to recoup that $240,000 on education? When I went to school, I think my tuition was about $25,000, and again, my parents were middle of the road. My mom was a school teacher. My dad worked in a professional business environment, but they weren't, they were middle class. They, they said, look, you have to do this in 4 years. We invest in you. We believe in you. And again, the investment for me paid off. It's paid off many times over. And I appreciate what they've done for me. But at the same time, when I'm looking at these young guys now, and the tuition $60,000 instead of $25,000, and you're not guaranteed anything. Mm-hmm. Not that you were guaranteed anything 20 years ago when I went to college, but you were, to your point, the parents and their grandparents did better. When and again, people would say go to school, get a good job, work at a good company. Now it's when these young guys come out, they have to think about, does this guy care more about people or more about cutting salaries when they can because they'll make more money. That's my concern, and I think quality goes away. I think robots and AI are very good, but they're not great, and they're not people. So sometimes if you've ever called a call service and it's driven by AI, you can get yourself very frustrated.
It's a dumpster fire.
It's a dumpster fire. You said it better. I couldn't have said it better than that. But I couldn't think. I have someone sits at my desk from 8:30 to 5 Monday to Friday, answers phones, does the packaging and the mail and the this and the that, and we've given her other tasks, and we've partnered with some companies who don't have administrative assistants, and she does that so that it's a beneficial. Everybody benefits. 5, 6 different companies benefit, myself included, because we split the cost of one labor. Now, 6 guys having 6 labor that don't have a full-time job, that's a waste of time and money. Don't do it. So we've kind of made like our own little ecosystem, and it makes sense now.
Yeah.
But like there have been times like you're on a phone and you're just dialing into, you keep hitting the button and you just keep getting more frustrated. So like, how do we utilize that technology? There's some good in that technology, but there's also some human interaction where it can make a better, more positive experience.
I mean, there's so much to unpack there. So we did an event for Tech Week, and we had on one side of the panel, it was Bonnie Young and her CEO. They're human designers, and they're all about intuition and creativity. And on the other side of the panel, we had 2 people working in the beauty commerce space, and they create these. It's basically watching the trends on TikTok and then of what Gen Z is responding to in real time, and then producing products and outputs and trend guidelines to just push those products immediately. And one thing that came out of that conversation was what is trending on TikTok right now and on Reels across platforms is the way that when you see human hands on the sewing machines, or you see art and it's presenting or telling a story and they're using Play-Doh and there's human hands that are actually putting it together. I think especially in 2025, like there was so much of this adoption of AI generated imagery and visuals and footage, but now we are experiencing in real time, and this is not related to grants, is that we are moving in a way that it feels like consumers definitely have a lot of fatigue around that, and they actually do want that human touch.
Andrew and I talk about this probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Andrew and I work in the same office 2 or 3 times a week together, and it comes up once a day about this AI imagery. And honestly, I run a branding company, I run a marketing agency, wingman.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I don't want to be average with this AI generated imaging. No. But I also can't imagine, again, the small guy who doesn't really have the budget for marketing, I get why they're using it.
Yes.
But any larger organization that has a brand, deems themselves to have a brand, feels that they have a brand, I don't know why they want to use it. I can't. Why do you want to be average?
Don't be average at anything.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Don't do it if you're not going to be great.
I can't believe, and I get it. It's cheaper. It's easier. It takes a few seconds. You don't have to go back and forth with a designer,
yes.
A developer. But on the other side is you're just throwing slop against the wall, and you're like, oh, this is okay. This is good. Meanwhile, you've spent all these years. I spent hours, months, when we did our logo and we did our brand book. I drove the designers crazy. I looked over Chelsea's shoulder on Photoshop for hours at a time and said, move this, do this, do this. What about if we did this? And Alexa and Jillian are coming back in with different ideas. And it was a process. And it was a slugfest, right? It wasn't, I'm sure that Jillian kind of wanted to tell me to go, pound sand a few times. But at the end of the day, we all came up with something we love and we're proud of. And it's in our brand design book, and it's in our brand guide. And when we went to the franchise trademark committee, I felt proud. You can't go to the trademark committee with an AI image and you get that through. They're not going to say yes to you. So it's weird that companies are just, but I think that people do have fatigue towards it.
They do.
And I put out an AI question of the week. I don't know if you follow me on the socials, but Ariel on our team puts out an AI question of the week. And that's an upcoming question. What do you think about the AI design? And do you think the AI, to me, if a company, and I'm in the marketing game, so I'm not really a fair critic, but if I saw a company put out an AI graphic and I'm like, well, it doesn't make me want to go support that business or do business with that business, not because I'm in the game, but to me it looks like they're lazy. It looks like they're very lazy.
I agree with that, and I think there's some. Well, I just think there can be. I mean, there has been situations across platforms where certain artists in music or graphic design have been able to prove that their imagery was plagiarized by these AI generating sites.
And I think when these AI generated sites, they're kind of trying to take everything in to generate an image. But I think sometimes the images are even overcompensated for. There's no design beauty anymore.
It's very disappointing.
It is. So when you think about some of the funding you're doing for on the business side, like how do you kind of take that and say, this is where we're going?
Well, it depends on what the clients are looking for. This week, for example, we were looking at SBIR. These are innovation for robots. And the subtopics are 6 right now. And they are human assistive technologies and biorelated robotics, human-machine interfaces and control architecture, robotics applications, robotics in agile manufacturing and co-robotics, underground or underwater robotics for low visibility, poor connectivity, or hidden topography, and number 6 is just other robotics technologies.
Like the stuff like with the underground, I think that's good because it's not something that's taking away from a human.
Well, a lot of it is, I agree, but a lot of it is also military to keep the government cares about having these technologies being developed in the U.S. to keep the U.S. competitive on the global market.
I think there's a benefit to that. I do think there's a benefit. You got to be top notch. You got to be ahead of the curve.
Totally.
But I think in the business world, we got to figure out how to work together.
Of course. I think when I was 19, I was really sad. I was hitting a wall. I called one of my honorary family members from Germany, and she was living in Northern California. We had a long call, and she was like, Peter, it doesn't even matter what you decide to do right now, because for your generation, you're expected to have 7 different careers across your one career until you retire. And I think she's, in hindsight, years and years later, she's so right. I feel like a cat that's had 9 lives, and
you're still a young guy.
And I still have lots of lives ahead of me.
Yeah. So where do you think the world, as we kind of, we'll get off AI and get back to you. So where do you see AI going in the next year or 2?
That's a very interesting question. It's hard to say. There's certain startups I've even met who argue that AI is going to be replacing some of this consumer-generated content, user-generated content, which would make me very sad. I love watching TikTok videos of people talking about whatever they're experiencing or dabbling in products and unboxings. I think, honestly, I've also talked to people who have been on the inside of OpenAI, and they say the feedback I got this past fall was that AI use is actually about to, I feel weird saying this publicly, but they were saying, this was almost a year ago now, was that AI is actually about to plateau in terms of what it can do for us, and they thought that it was going to be just like the .com bubble, where everyone, especially now, like it feels like everyone and their mom in New York has an AI startup in some way, but like, will it just implode?
Most of them are going to implode.
What will be the long-term impacts of that? Will we have new technology and infrastructure that's built out? Well, let's see.
You need revenue, right?
Yes.
So you could there's X amount of people that are going to get venture backed or private equity backed, but the average, I don't know the numbers, and I'm just kind of throwing out a number. Say 10% of businesses have some sort of funding to them.
Yes.
That means 90% of them don't.
They should be going after small business innovation research grants.
So, they should all talk to Peter.
Because last night I was at an event, I was talking to this guy, and he's like, yeah, I got an SBIR phase 1. And I was like, great, like, tell me about it. He goes, it's what's keeping the lights on right now. And I was like, I believe that. I know that.
Your innovation loan everyone should be getting one.
They're grants, not loans. You don't have to pay them back.
So you don't have to pay them back. So those are even better.
Yeah.
So how do you get it into the hands of more business owners? Are you giving me the grant before you leave today?
I had dinner with someone, and he had done last night. It was 2 startup exits, and he was an immigrant, total go-getter, done amazing things across his career. He obviously knows the VC institutional investor path. He does not know he did not know what SBIR was. He didn't know that he didn't understand this funding. And so I think, especially being able to make appearances like this, I want to make this knowledge more accessible.
Let's talk about what that is and what it takes to get funding through you.
Okay. So a phase 1 grant would be, it can be 50 to 275,000, but I tell people it's usually around 300,000 for that phase 1 grant. You need a phase 1 in order to access phase 2. That phase 1 grant would be around 6 to 12 months of innovation or research development. And then the federal government wants to know that you actually followed through on what you said you were going to do. The proposal originally had to make sense. They need to see usually about 2 bids for equipment. They need to see contractor costs for the team that actually makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know that this research and development is being done here in the United States, because that's kind of the point.
That's key.
That's the point. And then if you can execute and make your case for phase 1, you can go straight to phase 2, and that's for $750,000 to $2 million. And then you can, if you do really well on a phase 2, you can actually go for a 2B. So that could potentially be around $4.3 million of non-dilutive capital without having to take garbage from institutional investors or VCs. I've heard all of the horror stories that I'm not going to say publicly of investors investing in a company and then being really mean to the founders, and sometimes even degrading if they don't feel like they're getting what they want, or they like the concept but they decide they don't like the founder.
About 20 minutes ago I told you that VCs care about a P&L. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
So 20 minutes ago, you didn't kind of give me the credit that I deserved on that one. But I mean, it sounds like you're saying the same thing 20 minutes later now.
You deserve all the credit for that.
I'm glad that you're finally saying it. All right, so I agree with you. I think that you're absolutely right. Again, they're looking at numbers, and they don't care about the founder, and they don't care about how many hours the founder did to get to the point that they're at. They care. They've now bought in. Yeah. They've now used their money to take over this brand, company, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
They care about one thing: making more of it now.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if your feelings are hurt.
Nope.
It doesn't matter if your idea was great and they now have a better idea. They care about what's going to bring. It's a race to see how much money and how fast they can come in the door. The customer doesn't count anymore.
Nope.
The team doesn't count anymore.
Nope.
I don't know. I've always said this. I don't know if you've ever heard me on one of my podcasts, but the day that I sell my business, take my phone too, because I don't want the calls of people saying you did it differently than the way that they're doing it now, because I know that that's the problem, and that's going to be the problem.
I totally resonate with that.
So I want to figure out a way that you have founders like me that care about people and care about the business. More of those kind of guys around, and have a fund that helps guys like that, because we're the ones that want to keep these people employed. We're the people that have charities and organizations and donate. And again, you call up a VC and ask them to support a baseball team. Good luck with that. The local Belmore Little League, you call a PE firm and you ask them to sponsor. They're going to laugh at you. They're like, no way. We don't do that. Amazon doesn't do that. They don't. They care about dollars and cents. They don't care about the local community. And again, if you don't have a local community, what happens?
Well, back to like something like an Amazon or these publicly traded companies. And from last I remember, Amazon does not pay a dividend to the shareholders. But the way I was trained in college doing traditional development is back to Africa. If, let's say, Disney makes a blockbuster Lion King remake in 2019, they donated millions of dollars to conservation across Africa around that time. But it was actually only a drop in the bucket compared to what that film actually made. Because these publicly traded companies exist to funnel money to their shareholders. So for you, or not for you, for me, when I do grants for a nonprofit of some kind, when I look at corporate grants, it has to be perfect fit, like a glove, in terms of what they care about, what they're going through right now, yada yada yada. Those corporations are going to care a lot about the visibility, that marketing piece. They're going to want a name of something, or they're going to want a name on they care about that brand
Yes.
recognition. But if you're actually going after the real money, is you need to go after the shareholders, the private individuals, the family foundations.
Yep. So you know what you're doing out there. So how is your day like? What does it entail on an average day for you?
It really, there's every day is so different
Mhm.
and magical.
That's pretty cool though.
Thank you. I'm naturally a morning person, which is
Uh-huh.
really hard in New York because I like to be up at 5. Sometimes it's more like 6, etc. And then I get up and I do my best work in the mornings, and I like to do deep work. And then I also have people who help me per DM on certain projects of editing or quality review or budgets, and they're on the West Coast in SoCal or Washington. So
Yep.
then they wake up around usually like 11, 12 on East Coast
Yep,
time
sure.
is when they're at their desks. And then we just go at it all afternoon. And usually in the afternoons, I have more calls with people going over budgets or if they want to talk about whatever programs they're
Mhm.
working on. And then sometimes I'm at events in the evenings after dinner. I love going to the gym. I go to the gym like
Religiously.
6 days a week. Yeah, very.
What day do you take off?
I usually like to just let my body recover on Saturdays.
All right, cool.
And then we go out to events usually in the evenings because I want to know what's going on.
I love it. You're like in the know.
You need to be in the know.
And I think it's great what you're doing. I actually
you.
really applaud you. I just sometimes the AI world frustrates me a little bit. And I think it's about the caring part of it. Like it can't all be again. If I didn't want to do things locally, I could have all outsourced overseas people that I pay $2 an hour to. Again, you can't use it all because it just doesn't. Then you don't have a local presence.
Of course. And then I come home from the events at like 10 and I'm
Yeah.
exhausted. And then sometimes I'm on the phone with people till after midnight in
Yep.
like Indonesia or some other
That's
time
crazy.
zone.
So, do you really love it though?
I love it.
Is there anything you change about your career now that you're into it?
I mean, okay. I'm sad about the way, if I could change something,
Mhm.
I'm sad about the way that USAID was shut down last year.
Uh-huh.
It runs on 0.3% of the US federal budget.
Okay.
And growing up in an immigrant family, it was hard during the recession. My dad was appraising houses. It was a really hard time. And we were taught of like, don't spend money you don't have. Be very frugal. Like,
Be
yes.
very conscious of it.
Of course, don't take on debt. Don't live in debt to other people. But I've been reading in USAID, it has cost across the course of 1 year. It's cost around, some people say 750 to 1.7 million deaths across the world. And that's because of the death of USAID. Roughly 500,000 to 700,000 of those are projected to be children. There's somebody in Liberia, Africa. We're always talking about these chimpanzees.
Yep.
And she had a USAID grant that was coming in to establish 2 national parks in Liberia. And it's a lot of work to actually establish national parks, to get the right people in place, to draw the boundaries, to get all the paper. It's so much work. And it was to support these communities in this transition. And that program was axed. And so I feel like I'm going to be talking about these sites in Liberia until we either find a way to make it happen or I drop dead.
Let's make it happen.
Thank you.
I think that if you put your mind to something, you're going to get it done. I feel like you have that tenacity, that hard work, and that you're going to just get it done.
Thank you.
So as we wrap up today, this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that we stay in touch and we can, keep chatting over notes over in time of what's going on in the world. I like to be challenged too. I like smart people. I like people that come in with a different point of view. Just to, it's what makes the world go round, right? So, but as we wrap up, let people know where they could find you if they're interested in, working with you or learning about some of the different options that you provide and some of these different grants.
Yes, I would say, honestly, just look me up on LinkedIn as Peter Humphreys Grant Consulting. Peter Humphreys Grant Consulting.
Peter Humphreys Grant Consulting.
We don't the website is being rebooted right now.
If you ever need a wingman, we build websites.
I love that.
We build hundreds of them a year.
Amazing.
Let me know. All right, so Peter Humphreys, Grant Consulting on LinkedIn. And thank you for coming on today. This was a great conversation. And I look forward, like I said, to keeping in touch.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.